Good morning and salam alaikum, everyone. How are you all doing? Welcome back for the intermediate webinar series for supervisors. Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you're all keeping well and safe. And thank you for your time in joining us for this webinar. Current practices, redefining terms, overcoming challenges, e-learning. What a great topic. Like, I'm just looking at very powerful words here. We hope you'll enjoy the session. And just a brief overview, this is for intermediate supervisors. And this is a second semester coursebook webinar for Super Goal 2, Super Goal 4, and Super Goal 6. So just making sure you're in the right place. And we will be covering a lot of things during the webinar. This is a 2-hour session, so stay tuned. We don't have an afternoon session, but I guess before I proceed any further, let's just check if the audio is okay. You can hear me. So there's a hand icon on the bottom of your screen. If you can just click on that hand icon, if you can hear my voice and it's loud and clear for you, there are no issues. Okay, good. Hands are going up. Thank you so much for that. If you have any questions, you can let us know. Yes, we can hear your voice. Your moderators are in the background to help us out. And moderators for today are myself, my colleagues, Minerva, Hamad, and Nasir, and Medini. We will be there in the background to answer any questions you have, or if you face any trouble during the webinar, please let us know, and we can help you out with that. Our trainer for today is Danai. Of course, I don't think Danai needs any introduction at all at this point. You're very well averse, but she's done several training workshops in the past. And we're very happy that Danai is here back with us today. Thank you, Danai, for joining us.
Thank you, Suresh.
And she usually refers to handouts during the session. So let me just drop that in the chat box for you. You can download these handouts, by the way. So this is the handout that she will refer to for this session. This is the intermediate supervisor session again. So this is your handout. Before we proceed any further, I'm just going to quickly cover housekeeping slides for Zoom. You already know we are using Zoom this time. So just so you have a great experience, we just recommend you're connected to the audio. If you're facing any connectivity issues with the audio, we recommend you can use the call-in function using your phone. But I think we're fine on the audio. We have like 400 people above who have joined us. So other than that, we recommend you close down any high networking apps such as Netflix, YouTube, any gaming platform, because this is going to affect the bandwidth during the webinar. And you must have noticed you're probably the only one on the screen. You can see yourself on the screen on the right side. However, like I said, there are more than 400 people and the number is increasing. So don't worry that you're the only one. Also, don't worry about your attendance, please. Where does this need to be marked? You don't need to mark your attendance anywhere. You're automatically being marked. In fact, we know what time you log in and what time you log out of the webinar. So it's all there. Also, your name, just want to cover that off, is we already have your names because this is a pre-registered webinar. You didn't have to register anywhere. You just received the link to join the webinar. So you cannot change your name. It's as I don't know how it's appearing for you, by the way. It might be showing you in Arabic or just your first name. But what we see on the screen for us is your full names. That's what we see. So your first name, middle name, last name, 4 names, or however you have provided it, we see it like that. So don't worry about your names too much, how it's appearing for you on Zoom. You will be getting the recording for this webinar as well. So we will be sharing this recording via email. You will be getting a certificate for the handout. Please be patient about this. This will come through if you have attended. Last slide from me is you must have noticed that you can now engage with your peers and colleagues. They can see your comments. And they can see your whatever comments you have for them, and you can interact more. You cannot unmute yourself and you cannot have your video. That's automatically done, but you're able to engage with your peers. How you're able to do that? Yes, Khalid, I can see your name. You just have to select on the chat box all panelists and attendees. So if you select all panelists and attendees, everyone can see your comments. So just make sure you do that, because you want to make sure that all your colleagues are also able to view your comments and comments. So just select from the two, just drop down and select all panelists and attendees so everyone can see your comments. And I guess chat box is there, as you know, to interact with Dana. You can pop in comments. She's going to ask you questions. Q&A is more so for the moderator. So if you have any questions, any technical difficulties, you can write that. Even if you have a question for Dana that you want us to cover after the session, you can drop it. Sorry, you can drop it in the Q&A box and we can cover that for you later on. I'm guessing I've covered everything, hopefully, for today. Just going to check. Yeah, I suppose I have. But meanwhile, we're there in the background to help you out. So let us know if there's anything, any questions at all. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Thank you. If you have anything at all, you can pop it in the chat box or the Q&A, and we'll be there in the background. Other than that, I'm just going to pass over to Danai. Thank you, Danai. Sorry, I took longer today.
It's okay. Thank you, Suresh. Oops. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Actually, one thing I want to say, that the handouts that you've got, I'm not sure we're going to be referring to them, but they're handouts that you might want to use with your teachers. Anyway, I'll explain as we carry on. Please do comment, do ask me questions. If I have to change anything to address particular issues that you'd like to raise, that's fine. It's not doing it.
Your screen is changing slides, by the way.
What do you say?
A Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel. What else? What else do you notice? Lights, okay. Are they all the same? Playground, okay. Unfair, yeah. Colored lights, okay, fine. And a Ferris wheel, okay. Wheels go round and round. Okay. Why did I show you that? Well, because Ferris wheel, I think, has got a lot in common with teaching approaches and practices. We seem to be going round and round. Okay, yes, introducing the theme and very much sort of trying to make the point that with teaching approaches, yes, thank you, different minds we deal with, absolutely. But with teaching approaches, we see them from different perspectives. We pick up different things from different approaches, but no approach has really gone away totally, at least not yet. What matters most to teachers when it comes to the way you teach, to what you do in class? Good, yes, knowing your students, good, individual differences, yeah, ambitions and hopes. The easiest way, yes, the easiest way for the students, effective, yeah. What about the learners? What matters most to learners? Teaching methods, okay. No single approach that can be suitable for all learners. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. You, personally, what matters most to you in your position now as you observe classes, learners' outcome? Okay. Learning through play, yes. Achieving outcomes, interest, student engagement, taking into consideration background knowledge. Great, active class, absolutely. Okay, fine. Student engagement, yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Okay, and it's not always easy, yeah? How to ensure that students learn, yes, absolutely. Okay, now, in terms of priorities, criteria, and outcomes, okay, do we all have the same criteria, the same priorities? Creating a safe, helpful environment. No. Yes. No. We don't. Should we? Should we have the same priorities? Depends on what. Yes, we should. At least when it comes to sort of main priorities, major priorities, I think you do share priorities. Um, yes, I know I realize there are differences, but you do all care about the learners and the learners' well-being and learning, successful learning. It does depend on teachers and learners' needs, what kind of students, okay. Some goals have to be a priority. Yep. Goals for teaching English in Saudi Arabia is a priority. Yes, absolutely. You can't disregard that. You can't disregard curriculum and goals that are set for everybody. And this will, in turn, affect your choices quite often regarding techniques, evaluation, and assessment. So, in other words, it will affect your choice of approach. I'm sure you've seen all these before. Grammar translation method, the oldest. Students' needs and preferences. Okay. All right. So the oral approach and situational language teaching, the audiolingual method, total physical response. Okay. Can we, before we just go through, grammar translation method, I realize that some of you still feel quite strongly about this, but do you feel strongly about translating when it's necessary? Or do you think that grammar translation method is what should be used? Only when it's necessary, okay? When it's needed, only when it's necessary, okay? The oral approach and situational language teaching, only for abstract ideas, yes? Not necessary, fluency rather, okay. Translate when students need it, okay? The audiolingual method. I'm sorry, I can't read Arabic. The audiolingual method. Anyone who is a fan of some things from the audiolingual method? Only with certain cases. Oral repetition, yes, fine. Repetition is important. So we have kept actually quite a few techniques from audiolingual method, and as well as situational language teaching. Um, okay. For listening and speaking more, you're talking about the audiolingual, yeah? Total physical response. Drilling also is needed, absolutely. Yes, the best choice for elementary stage for young kids. Absolutely, we do combine with other approaches. TPR is very important. The audio is very important in teaching young learners any age. If you want to save time, you want to make it clear for everybody in terms of listening, speaking. Yeah, eclectic approach. Yes, community language learning for some topics. Yes. Um, can we have an example of a topic for community language learning? Home. Yes, fine, great. Okay. Suggestopedia. It gives priority to oral skills. Are you referring to community language learning? No. Suggestopedia. Okay. Backchaining method is also useful. That you're talking about audiolingual for special schools. Suggestopedia, you mean? Audiolingual. Okay. All right. So it's obvious that audiolingual is still around, right? Whether we like it or not. No harm in that, especially when you have to cater for a curriculum under certain circumstances. Does it include group discussions? Do you mean the, what, Suggestopedia or community language learning? Community language learning. Yes. Um, as these approaches and methods are used, they stop people who use them stop being purist. Yes, we're going to get to task-based language learning. Okay, whole language. Whole language is started off in mostly second language context in the States quite some time ago, but it's something that we take um, quite seriously, particularly with young learners. And it's not bad to cater for that and bear it in mind as well. Multiple intelligences we've talked about. Yes. Community language method is based on communication, community language learning, you mean? Or are you talking about communicative language approach? Okay, neurolinguistic programming, which in its application actually has got quite a few similarities with audiolingual at times, if you see it being applied in classes. The lexical approach, do you think the lexical approach has affected the way we teach, the content of course books, syllabi, and so on? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not at all. You mean it hasn't affected anything? I think it has. We do more work with chunks, collocations, and so on, and pay a lot more attention to the lexical content. And also, if you notice, most of the material, most of the course books organize things topically, which is another sign, because the idea is that within a certain subject, within a certain topic, then words, phrases, okay, will be related in some way in terms of relevance, meaning, relatedness. Competency-based language teaching. Have you heard of that before? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, what's the basis? Okay. Okay. Competency-based language teaching does not have a given syllabus to begin with. It's based on what the learners, you begin with what the learners know and develop from that point. It has been used quite a lot in adult training, especially with professionals, for example, where you try to do the most you can with what is there. No, they don't follow a course book. Yes. Students advance upon mastery, yes. But quite often, what determines effectiveness in competency-based language teaching is the very practical goals that the learners themselves have. So, for example, perfect accuracy might not be a requirement unless, of course, they're professionals who have to write. I'm just giving an example. This is not the case in all cases. Okay, the natural approach. Yeah. Okay, the main thing about the natural approach is the exposure to the language and the ability to understand language, and that's where you get the reason that developed to the extent it developed was because Krashen supported it. No, competency is not applicable in your case. Stephen Krashen, correct. Okay, with all the comprehensible input and so on and so forth. The natural approach is also quite strong and going quite strong, particularly with older learners. Cooperative language learning, okay? This came from educational theory, right? But it's something that, again, has taken over and is very, very important. Very important for many reasons, connected with 21st century skills as well. And also because if you want to have communication, you do need to have other people, right? You need to have people, somebody to communicate with. Content-based instruction, which is, content-based instruction. This originally started in higher education and so on, but started affecting different levels of language teaching. Task-based language teaching, which you've already mentioned. Yes, CLIL is an outcome of content-based instruction. Okay. And these are approaches. Okay? They're all approaches, which means that they haven't got one specific closed system with a set number of prescribed activities. So in all of these approaches, they have a theory of language and a view of language. And what is very important is the role of the teacher as opposed to the role of the learner, or in combination with the role of the learner, and so on. But they're not really tied to a method, which gives us full license, actually, to pick and choose any techniques from any method that we think, or any approach that we think is appropriate for our learners. So I know I'm reminding you, you're familiar with this, but just reminding you, an approach is a core set of theories and beliefs about the nature of language and of language learning. A method refers to a specific system or instructional design based on a specific theory of language and language learning. It specifies teaching procedures and techniques. So there is a difference. So this is why we often choose, we use the word approaches for all of these. Communicative language teaching, competency-based, content-based instruction, cooperative language learning, eclexical approach, multiple intelligences, natural approach, task-based, neurolinguistic programming, whole language, okay? They're approaches that really have a core set of theory and beliefs about the nature of language and learning, but not specific teaching procedures and techniques. So we basically borrow the best we can. Absolutely, project-based learning is very, very important. Okay, this is a review of EFL history in the 20th century. I know you can't see it possibly very well, can you? It's really small font. Brain-based learning, yes. Project-based learning. Okay. This will give you the theory of language, theory of learning, and theory of teaching in the 20th century. Why? Because all of this, the Ferris wheel, remember, hasn't gone away. It has actually affected what we do. I'd like to point out some issues here, contrary to what we think. If you see what's happening here, 30s, structural linguistics, behaviorism, Skinner, transformational generative linguistics, Chomsky, cognitive view, mentalism. Okay, so cognitive approach. So cognitive approach started then. Okay, late 50s, 60s, 70s, speech act theory, functional linguistics. Okay, I personally take speech act theory quite seriously as well, especially obviously in developing spoken discourse. Communicative approach, okay, and sociolinguistics was what really started the attention to communication, community, and so on. So one of your handouts is actually this, so I won't tire you with this one a lot longer. I thought you might want to have it. So I think we agree. Yes, teaching approaches accumulate and leave traces of one another on the way. Yes, absolutely. And even more than traces. Okay, no single approach to language teaching seems to work for every learner, as you said yourselves. Few teachers nowadays would consider adopting just one method or approach and applying it to the exclusion of any other. Do you agree, or do you think that's too much? Okay. Most teachers now prefer to become informed about the approaches that have been applied to date and select the most suitable ones for their teaching context and their goals. Teachers will often combine elements from different approaches in the same lesson. This selecting and combining of approaches is known as eclecticism. And that's old as well. That's been going for years. But I think it's still around. We still do it. And for good reason, too. Thankfully, we don't have to be dogmatic these days. We can select what we think is more appropriate. Okay. Which of the following, there are different techniques, practices, and so on, do you think are more frequently used in intermediate classes? Would you like to take a minute to sort of glance through? Grammar rules. Yeah. Thoughts. Drill translation. Okay, you're coming up with a mix. All of them. Okay. Most of them to some extent. Communicative drills. Okay, Michelle. Would you like me to include some handouts for teachers that you can use in training with different types of drills and so on, and give them to you next time, next week, in other words? Yep. Okay, fine. Absolutely. Sorry, I thought, you wouldn't want to see it. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So that's one on my list. And please ask me whatever else you think, you might want. Meaningful and communicative drills are rarely used. Okay, I will provide some examples. But may I okay. May I give you a very standard, very boring example of a communicative drill? Okay. All right. So, the training package. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll give you the example now. All right. I'll give you the example with the refrigerator, which is easier to explain. Okay, so you ask your students to just think for a minute and try and say what is in their fridge. So elicit whatever items they come up with, different students. So you list those items on your board or on the whiteboard on your screen, okay? And you use it, obviously you can use it for countables and countable, you can use it for question answers to find out who has what and what you can cook. So it's normally done in pairs or small groups so they can decide on what they can cook as well. Today, no package. No, okay. No, what I'll do is get everything together then and give it to you next week. Okay. So, decision making. Yes, teachers rarely have closed pair work. Yes, I am really sorry about that. Because closed pair work is what really gets things going, and it is very, very important these days because you're having to work online, and it's good to trust your learners so that they can appreciate that and trust back and take on the responsibility to run their own practice, to do what you ask them to do. But you have to set specific tasks. You can't tell them to go into the breakout rooms and discuss what they think is fun to do at the weekend or not fun to do on the weekdays. That's too general. You have to have a very specific task. Okay. Projects are here. All right, so we move on to only one. Okay. I wouldn't like to go through the sort of pair work, group work material now. As I said, I'm going to try and give you everything. Communicative drills are like telling students a story and ask them to complete using sentences of their own. Okay, but the whole idea of drills is that a certain type of language is repeated. So the reason they are useful and the reasons that they help learners and they help you save time is that. Okay, like finding out who stole the, yes, absolutely, that is, that is a communicative drill, especially if somebody has taken the bag. Okay. Now, in 21st century, some of the words and some of the terms that are going around that we've been discussing as well are things like diversity, critical thinking, creative thinking, online learning, open learning. Any other ideas? Yes, collaboration, blended learning, thank you. Inquiry, active learning, inquiry-based learning, online learning, open learning, deep learning, very good. Okay. What has changed things? What has pushed everything in this direction? Why is autonomous work, self-managed work, autonomous learning, technology? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, of course, the internet, but yes, the internet, but in principle, the end of the industrial era, I mean, industry is still going on, but it has affected the world and made many changes. And some of the changes, unfortunately, were very negative. But now is the information era, isn't it? It's technology, information. If you think about it, there are masses of information. It's the amount of information that is available is really mind-boggling. It's so difficult that we can't even conceive of how much information is available. Well, if there is so much information, then it has to be managed somehow by the people who look for it and who find it. And actually, it goes a lot deeper than that in the sense that the people who use that information need to be able to select information according to certain criteria. Information community and knowledge community, absolutely. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, absolutely, school is not the only source of information any longer. Um, yes, the growing ability of the learner to learn from different resources on his or her own pace and desired end. Absolutely. That is happening anyway. So basically what we're having to do in the formal learning context is to take that into consideration as much as possible. We could take it into consideration all the way if we had assessment and curricula and so on that could accommodate it. But things being what they are all over the world, what we're having to do is compromise, but it's very, very important to allow learners to think for themselves, work for themselves, make decisions, negotiate, because this is what they have to do. We can't expect people, we can't expect young people to make the right decisions, to make the right choices, if we don't give them the right to make choices in what is, in effect, a controlled environment, the environment of a learning context, a classroom or online. So rather than pretend that it can't happen, I think we should all try and contribute to this as much as possible. Is that it requires a great deal of self-motivation. Yes, I agree. But the self-motivation, are you referring to the learner or the teacher? Learners, yes, absolutely. But in a sense, what you very early on, I mean, the first semester, I think you were quite keen on motivation, and I sort of tend to go for engagement, hoping to motivate, giving students a choice. Yes, I'll give you a very simple example. What you just said about closed pairs, about getting students to work in breakout rooms, trusting learners to take on responsibility. In fact, teaching them, helping them to take on responsibility. We've got to do it. And it is very much our problem as teachers because we don't want to relinquish control. So I think, yes, it does require self-motivation on the part of the learners, but it also requires a lot of motivation on the part of the teacher. I am not saying it's easy, but it's doable. And it is successful when it happens, because particularly teenagers are the ones that complain about the fact that people don't take them seriously. So we need to take them seriously. And anyway, in breakout rooms, they're not on their own. The teacher is still monitors. You can still listen in. But if you give them specific roles, if they have a specific task, it can happen. I never said it was easy. But yes, students do need a choice. Task-based learning, yes. All right. Before we carry on with specifics in your course material, can we also deal with project-based learning, which I think is a wonderful idea. It's more than an idea, actually. But in a sense, if we begin with the project, then we're going into more of a competency-based learning situation. Um, but what is really valuable there is learners really become researchers. They make choices. They make decisions. They need to collaborate. They need to synthesize, analyze, synthesize. Really, what could be more critical? Thinking of critical thinking, so to speak. Okay. We, in critical thinking, quite honestly, as you well know, is nothing new. It's very, very old. It's very ancient. Goes back to philosophers and so on. Um, so really, this is why I showed you the Ferris wheel. I know I'm sort of running through things because I didn't want this to become a lecture, so to speak, on approaches, methods and approaches. And anyway, we would have needed a lot longer to do that, just a few hours, if not more. Yes, critical thinking is, of course, based on logic, but then some people will ask you, what is logic? And it goes on from there. Yes, I agree. Um, okay. But when it comes to critical thinking, again, which is very, very important for our learners, um, we need to help them by handing over responsibility and by making them feel responsible and able to carry out certain things, to carry out specific tasks, and not want to control every single thing they do very tightly. Okay. Um, we've seen this before. The least used component in your view, is it the same as in the elementary, I wonder? Okay, let me pick up a couple of things. Shifting the view from looking to the learner as a passive recipient to a more active thinking personality who needs to be equipped with important social and critical thinking skills. Absolutely. And one of the things that you mentioned yourselves before was the business of social, emotional, very important. If you think about it, again, you are experiencing, we are all experiencing it now with online teaching. Think of the learners. They are having to be autonomous. They are having to be self-sufficient. They are having to do quite a lot of things. But they're still social beings and they're still thinking beings. How do they do it? What is right or wrong? Agree, disagree, for or against? I can't follow that one. Um, um, the real question is, how effective is it? The least used. The least used is the learning center. Okay. Uh, um, that is online, actually. You should have a link. Right. Okay. Thank you. Um, I think the learning center is useful, you know, when things that you've said before for learners that maybe need a bit more support. Are you sure there's no learning center? Okay, that's another thing that I'll have to sort out for you next week then. Because if I try to connect now to download it now, it's going to take some time. Okay. It's not huge amount of material, but it's helpful, particularly with learners that you feel need a bit more support. Students are not getting enough support from teachers. Okay, they're not getting enough support from teachers for particular reasons. Are you referring to the fact that quite a few people are having to teach large classes of 40 plus students and so on? I'll go back to, yes, large classes. Okay, it's not perfect. We can't be perfect, and we shouldn't want to be perfect. We can always, however, try to be better, to do better. I think that is true of all of us. In large classes, this is another reason why it's so important to do collaborative learning, so you can optimize the time in class. But in order to support your students and in order to get what you need to get done in the time you have, planning is very, very important. Not because you're going to stick to the plan 100% necessarily, because a plan, you might spend a lot of time planning something and find out that it doesn't work. Then you have to be flexible enough to drop it and change to whatever you need to change to so you can cater for the needs that arise. Okay, sorry. Time doesn't help. No, of course it doesn't. Yes. Uh, um, yeah, we could go on about education. It's education all over the world. Okay, there are really the cases where people have managed to make things more flexible or more learner centered are very few. Okay, flipped classes to save more time for practice and support. Yes, provided what you flip is not new material that the learners have to go through on their own and then practice in class. Um, Otherwise, yes, and where you can flip in class as well. I mean, the flipping, the original concept was flipping roles. Are you going to would you like to have these slides later? Um, so it's flipping roles. It's flipping roles between teachers and learners. Okay. This will show their background knowledge. So it depends on what you're talking about. Okay. So if it's something that is more of a lead into a topic and you want them to do a particular task that is going to allow them to personalize or to come up with ideas and so on that are related, yes, of course, it's a very good idea. I'm not saying it's got to be something that you did in class necessarily and ask them to redo on their own. Yeah, okay. We're going to look at examples and see how we can use that. Okay, you've got, all right, I'll have to show you the Learning Center next time. Teacher created materials. Teacher created materials are the materials that you create. I know that quite a few of not you, the teachers create. I know that quite a few teachers do create materials. And I do hope that there is collaborative teaching in schools. You confirmed that there was. Realia, yes. Yeah, all the visual materials, realia, and so on. But even more, there are teachers who also put together, create poems with their students. They create little sort of plays. They do all sorts of things like that. Your teachers. Um, so I've seen some very creative work. Um, so I don't know if you know that's just a minority, but it didn't somehow didn't seem to be that. Um, learner created materials. Okay, learner created materials is also quite ambitious, but very, very important. Also, in order to involve the learners, keep them engaged, get them to contribute, okay, um, in more ways than one, okay. Yes, I'll give you an example. Yes, a portfolio. Do you all have portfolios? Do you all create portfolios? Yes, good, great. Yes, super. Is there a portfolio of for each learner, or are they class portfolios? For each learner, that's wonderful. Do the portfolios also contribute to their grades? In other words, assessment? Kind of. It's great. Okay, depends on number of students. Yeah. Okay, fine. So some of them are like group portfolios and some of them individual portfolios. That's fine. That's great. Okay. Um, so when they're group portfolios, I assume that is the outcome of collaborative work, correct? Yep. Okay. Okay. Now you're telling me getting very boring, but I have to ask, are teachers reluctant to use the teacher's guide in intermediate levels? Yes. Ah, group portfolio with sections for each one. Great. Yes. Super. Does the yes and the sure go to reluctance to use the teacher's guide? Why? Give me some reasons, please. Again, they don't want to read, but they're not long. The texts are not long. Don't they plan their lessons? Okay. All right, I do understand. They feel it's difficult. Some are keen to use it, okay? Um, they're afraid to make mistakes. Okay, the teacher's guide is not clear. Well, it's not very long, so it's really summarized. Of course, it's going to be different for online teaching. Nobody has been prepared for this. Nobody was prepared for what happened. But we established that people are perfectly capable of making the transfer. In fact, the teachers themselves make the transfer. I witnessed quite a change and quite a development from the first semester in the elementary, quite honestly. They didn't seem, fewer teachers seemed to be as concerned about making the transfer from face to face to online. That's okay. They don't have to do everything that's in the teacher's book. They can skip. Steps need more time to apply. Yes, that's okay to make changes. You have to make changes to make it suitable for your learners. Um, well, it is step by step, even if it's not written that way. I mean, in terms of format. Um, okay. All right. Are you telling me that people haven't got the time to plan? All right. Now, virtual books would be better for teachers and students. Do you mean virtual like a VR set? Because if that's what you're referring to, yes, I agree, but we'll have to wait a little for that. Um, okay. Yes, a few years. I don't think it's going to be many years, a few years, but it's going to be quite amazing. Okay. So again, it's a good idea to use a teacher's guide as a starting point, and I will be telling your teachers this week and showing them. Also, if they don't use the teacher's guide, can they see what the main items, the main goals are per lesson? Yes, it is going to vary. They can. These are the aims, yeah, the main aims of the lessons at a glance. They're in the teacher's book. Yeah. So if they don't, okay, the teacher's guide is interleaved. So it means that you don't have to use the teacher's guide and separately use the student's book. It's interleaved, and it's interleaved electronically as well. So really, I don't understand why the barcodes would make a difference. That's okay. They read and follow the teacher's guide to the best of their understanding. That's good enough. It's okay. Yes, it's not an easy matter. Okay, fine. All right. So basically, oops. Uh, do encourage them as much as you can, if only to have a clear idea of aims and so on. The extra bits that they talk about, if the there's a good comment here about the objectives included at the end of each lesson like we can. Yes, it's a very good idea. That's something you can do. But that's something that I would like us to discuss when we look at the just a couple of lessons from Supercore. Okay, now the extra bits are teaching tips, additional activities, project. Okay, so they don't have to think and look for things. They're here if they need them. Fun facts, if they need them, if they want them. And when they're really fun and understandable and suitable for the learners appreciate them. So I think it's a good idea, quite honestly. All right, now when people begin a lesson, begin a unit, do they begin with the book? Sometimes, no. Okay. I think it's always a good idea to start from beyond the book, outside the book. In fact, the teacher's book does have suggestions about things that they can use. Use a teacher's guide, they won't be able to cover everything. Maybe, maybe not. Previewing pictures, yes, but it's more than previewing. Okay, so what kind of store is this? Yes, lead in, thank you. I do prefer lead in to warm up. You know why? Because a warm up activity is sometimes kind of done very quickly just to warm up and forget about it. Although, if you think of physical exercise, for example, if you don't warm up properly, you might do yourself some damage. So the lead in is very important because that's the stage where you can elicit from the learners, find out what they know, how much they know, activate whatever they know. They will recall things, come up with things. So you create the basis there to carry on. So it's knowledge. And you get them involved, you get them engaged. I wouldn't even bother to elicit the, oh, you mean elicit objectives of new, yes, but I would try and do it in a way that is fun and it is flexible so that it doesn't intimidate the learners. On the contrary, it encourages and motivates them. Okay, about starting with ideas about the lesson. Yes, but what I'm going to suggest is that instead of the teacher starting with ideas about the lesson, try and flip it. Get the learners to come up with ideas, but you need to prompt them. Absolutely. If the topic is unfamiliar, all the more reason to begin with pictures or situation. Yes, activate prior knowledge through asking critical thinking questions. Yes, they don't have to be complete questions either. It's like, okay, look at this. What do you see? What kind of store is this? What can you buy? What can you buy there? Do you see anything you like? Do you like the colors? Yes, no, yuck. Just allow them to express themselves. Do you like shopping? Yes, no, favorite stores and so on. Do you like going shopping for clothes? Okay. Favorite stores, where do you go? Do you go to the mall? Da, 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 da. Yeah. Okay. Or pictures, as you said. Brainstorming, absolutely. Get them in groups in the breakout rooms to brainstorm and come up with things. Yes, that's synesthesia, which is a very good idea. What smell does red color have? Yes, it's more than a funny question actually. It's synesthesia. This is how people often, there are people who perceive things through different senses. Um, how can you ask about the price of something and so on and so forth? Okay, so basically you could get them to brainstorm on clothing or show them this. Can you name things here and brainstorm and list as many types of clothing as you can name, or just go through things here. So what I'm trying to get to is don't restrict it to the visuals of the lesson. This is something we do with all course books, and even this. What what are these people wearing? What are they wearing? Uniforms? Color? What color are they? Yellow? So what are they doing? What do you think they're doing there? Special uniform. Yes. All right. Firefighters. Yes. To protect themselves. No, no, no. Yes. Fighting fire. Yes, they're firefighters. Okay. So different things. Or actually, these pictures are not very good for that, but you can have a collection of pictures. Good. Yes, occupation types could be. A collection of pictures with similarities and some differences, and tell students to choose a person in one of the pictures and talk about what they're wearing, and the rest have to guess which person it is. Okay, and then we go to this, okay, to the actual book. All right, now, because this is going to be quite difficult to see, what I'm going to do is use the the interactive whiteboard. Okay, so the pages we were looking at are from Unit 5. Here it is. Okay. So, what's the very first step that you would go through with the books? What would you expect the teachers to do? Different things. Okay, what can you see again? So supposing you've done something with 2 or 3 pictures, okay? Asking them what they see. National dress, culture, okay, what can you say? All right. Name what you know, yes, good. All right. And then,
You can't hear the audio really.
you hear it?
No.
Sorry. Okay, just a sec. I'm not sure it's going to work, but I'll try.
That's fine.
Super goal 2.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oops, wrong. Sorry.
I think it's just because you're playing it on your PC and obviously we're doing this via Zoom.
Yeah, okay.
Super goal 2. What kind of clothes do you like to wear? Clothes for men. Tie. Shirt. Suit. Chemise. Thobe. Jacket. Pants. Shorts. Boots.
Clothes for women. Blouse. Dress. Coat.
Abaya. I'm going to travel to Rio de Janeiro on vacation.
Okay,
What
sorry,
clothes do I need?
Harry. Okay, so would you ask them to repeat the words? Yeah, play the audio, but also don't forget that you have this
Tie,
so they can repeat, yeah?
suit, shirt, coat, jacket, shorts, boots, pants.
Okay. What I would do here, sure they have to repeat, yes. But what I would do here is also remove the words or jumble pictures of some of these items, call out the word and put numbers, call out the word so they can match word and number. Now, this teachers don't allow to repeat new. They should repeat together. Well, we want students to be able to speak, right? So no, repetition is they should get used to repeating. I'm not suggesting that they spend hours repeating, but it's only fair to get the students to repeat things that are going to be used. Okay, now these exchanges here, to make sure they're pronounced correctly, yes? These exchanges here, okay, present basically the grammar item in context. So this is what needs to be used as presentation. Now, again, what I would do is copy the picture one from the student's book, picture two from the student's book, get them to listen only with a couple of questions, like the questions that you have here.
What kind of clothes do you like to wear? Clothes.
Instead of these, or even these, get them to look at these two questions, then listen if you don't want to write your own. And again, they would have to, okay, get the answers back, then
I'm going to travel to Rio de Janeiro on vacation. What clothes do I need? What kind of clothes do you like to wear? Clothes for men. Tie,
I messed up. Sorry.
shirt, suit, chemise, coat, jacket, pants, shorts, boots. Clothes.
Oh gosh.
What kind of clothes do you like to wear?
Okay.
Clothes for men. Tie, shirt, suit, chemise, robe, jacket, pants, shorts, boots,
clothes for women, blouse, dress, coat, abaya,
I'm going to travel to Rio de Janeiro on vacation. What clothes do I need?
I think you're going to need casual clothes for the hot weather. T-shirts, jeans, shorts, and a hat.
Okay. But before you even play it, get them to look at the picture. Who's this? Mario. And this is Steve. What's he doing? He's packing, yeah? Good. Okay, he's packing. So can you see the clothes that he's packing? What kind of clothes can you see? So get them to name what they can see. So is he packing all these clothes? So he's packing. When is he packing? Casual clothes, yes? Yes, to set the scene, but also it's going to help you with the grammar. So is he packing now? Can you see him packing? Yeah. Okay. So he's packing, right? And he says, I'm going to travel to Rio de Janeiro on vacation. When is he going to travel? Now? Now? Later today? Tomorrow? Okay, so it would be good if you drew a timeline here, okay? To show when he's going to be leaving, or a plane ticket, when, okay? So is everything planned? He's got a ticket. Does he know when he's traveling? Yes, okay. He has made plans. It's planned. What clothes do I need? And Steve says, Mario says, I think you're going to need casual clothes for the hot weather. T-shirts, jeans, shorts, and a hat. Who's going to need casual clothes? Who is going to need casual clothes? Okay, Steve. When? Now? When? When is he going to need casual clothes? Now, this minute? Yes, concept questions. Thank you. No. Okay, yesterday? Okay, later. Okay, so this is why a timeline would be handy here. Okay. Then you could get them to listen, or you read it yourself. Get them to repeat. Okay. Prompts, word prompts. Do teachers use word prompts? Okay, yes, of course. This is what we said. Questions first. So the first time they listen in order to understand something. Okay, and then you start working through it for the language itself. Okay. Um, so the idea is later. Timeline, please. Get them to repeat. Use word prompts if so to get them to help them remember. So word prompts would be something like travel, Rio de Janeiro, vacation, clothes, need. Yeah, these could be on your screen, on blank sheets, yeah, to help them remember what to say. Same here, word prompts. What I'm trying to get to here, what I'm trying to show you is that in this particular case, we get a mix of audiolingual and direct method. This is why I started off with approaches. If you want to do this in an organized manner, include everybody, help the students, and also manage the time, then you can choose to do it in a very organized way through whichever approach is more appropriate. And when we're looking at conversations like these, dialogues, um, really, I mean, think about direct method. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be dogmatic. You don't have to do it strictly because in direct method, you're not supposed to make a speech. You're supposed to ask questions. You never imitate mistakes. You correct. You never speak with single words. You use sentences. Never speak too much. You make students speak much. You never use the book. You use your lesson plan. There was a time when teachers were trained not to use any books. Never jump around, follow your lesson plan, which is not the case any longer because we did say you follow it as long as it works. Never go too fast, keep the pace of the students. That is still valid. Never speak too slowly, speak normally. Never speak too loudly, speak normally. Never be impatient, take it easy. So I'm giving you the do's and don'ts of direct method. But you don't have to do it 100% strictly that way. Everybody is very quiet. Are you still there or have you left? Are you bored? Shall I move on? No. You haven't left? Oh, thank God. Oh, I'm so glad. It was total silence. Do you also? Oh, thank you. Okay. Do you also want me to write up some stages for you and give it to you next week? You're actually attending 2 sessions at the same time. Hello? That must be difficult. I need another one. Trying to conceptualize. Okay. Okay. Shall I go through the stages of the dialogues again or not? Shall I carry on? Okay. All right. First step, picture. Look at the picture. I'm just using what I would use with my learners. Look at the picture. How many people do you see? Two. Okay. Um, what's he doing? What's this person doing? They might say things like he's holding clothes. What's he doing with the clothes? He's putting them in the suitcase. If they don't know, so when you put things in the suitcase, we say that you pack. So he's packing. Okay, packing. Good. Can you see the rest of the stuff that he's got there? The rest of the clothes? Can you name them? Okay. All right. So why is he packing? Do you think? Why is he packing? Because he's going to travel tomorrow. So you have your timeline here. He's going to travel. What, to now? This minute? No. When? Tomorrow. So you concept check instantly. Okay. Um, and he's asking his friend, what clothes do I need? Okay. What kind of clothes are these anyway? Are they formal clothes or casual clothes? Casual. Yeah. All right. So listen and say, okay. Now listen, where is he going? Where is Steve going? Okay. What kind of clothes is he going to need? All right. I'm going to travel to Rio de Janeiro on vacation. What clothes do I need? I think you're going to need casual clothes for the hot weather. T-shirts, jeans, shorts, and a hat. Yes. Okay, so where is he going to travel? Where is he going to go? Where is Steve going to go? Answer, to Rio de Janeiro, okay. And what kind of clothes is he going to need? He's going to need casual clothes. Is it hot or cold in Rio at this time of year? Okay, if they can't answer it, do it again. All right. I'm doing it so that we don't sort of waste time trying to find it here. Okay. And then listen and have a look. Okay. What's Steve saying here? I'm going to travel. Okay. Highlight this. You're going to need casual clothes. I'm going to travel to Rio de Janeiro. Okay. So you get them to notice the new form. When is he going to travel? You have your timeline then, tomorrow or later today, whatever you have decided. You decide what the time is going to be. So when is he going to need uh, clothes for hot weather, casual clothes for hot weather? Then from tomorrow, when he is in Rio de Janeiro. Is it clearer now? Okay, similar steps to this one. So what you're doing through these is presenting the new grammar, presenting future, planned, for planned actions. Okay? And then you have colors here. All right?
I'm going to a wedding on the weekend. I don't know what to wear. Me too. I'm going to go shopping for a formal dress. Do you want to come with me? Colors. Blue. Light blue. Green. Dark green. Red. apple, orange, yellow, brown, beige, black,
Okay.
white.
When you say that they have many ways to introduce their lesson, you mean the grammar? Valid? Yeah, well, what I'm talking about is the fact that it's best to introduce the new form, the grammar, if you like, in context so that they can see the concept, they can see the meaning. This is why we use the timeline. Timelines we don't only use for present progressive. We use timelines for any of the tenses that are time related. Okay. Absolutely, it's introduced all in context. And what I'm trying to show you is that you do have in your lessons presentation material in context. And this is what it's there for. Yes, I realize that yes, I understand that they teach, oops. They teach the grammar part of the lesson first. Okay. I wouldn't do that. I'm afraid I would want to use the material that allows me to do it in context. Okay. You mean this one? This, if there isn't a context, this has no meaning. Time expressions for the future. Well, this is what I said. Put your timeline today, now, today, and then next to it, tomorrow, next week, and so on. If they think, however, this then becomes a summary, which it is. So this is the summary. And this is the presentation in context. Yeah? This is the presentation in context. You have a quick check for this and that, which I would not do there. I would do it when they listen. So you can use these questions when they listen. So they listen, as you said, for a reason, and then do it. And then you've got pair work. Now, if you don't do, do you have to present a rule? Can't the students figure it out if you have a timeline and you use the context? Exactly, they will come up with it. You want them to understand. Yes, they can. All right, this is pair work for ask and answer. If you don't do it in pairs, how do you do it? Do you do it open class?
What clothes do I need to buy for Abba in winter? Warm clothes. It's cold in Abba. What clothes do I need for Jeddah in July? Light clothes. The weather is very hot.
And so on. Introducing the unit lesson separately. How do you mean? I mean, it's not possible to do it all at once. You do it here. You identify this. You get the students to notice. You deal with the concept. Okay, so next lesson, you go into this. Yes, you remember this. You say to the students. Okay. Unscramble sentences. Okay. Would you do this? Or would you do something else? If it's the next lesson, I would still go back to Steve. So remember Steve from last time? What's he going to do? Is he going to anywhere? He's going to travel. To where? To Rio de Janeiro. Okay, fine. When? Tomorrow, next week, whatever you have decided. And then, okay, you could go through this if you want. Although I prefer to build this thing up with students. And what I'm saying is, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go do this. Yes, spend more time on the activities, these activities, but you also, again, you can prompt things, okay? Now, everybody think about the weekend, okay? What are you going to do on the weekend? Okay, give them a few seconds, half a minute to think, okay? So they start saying what they're going to do for the weekend. Okay, so can you find other people who are going to do the same thing? In a classroom, you can get them to mingle, to move around. Yes, of course, you can ask them for examples. Okay, so I would get them to practice orally first before getting into this. And this is the listening. Okay, but we're sort of running out of time. Sorry, something to watch out for. With the listening, okay, you could do this, but if you want them to answer exactly what is required, you will have to let them listen more than once, possibly twice. And I would go for the first listening, ask them about the style only. Okay. Second listening, then ask them for more. Third listening, get them to check their answers and add anything that was left out.
I'm going to go shopping this afternoon. My brother and I are going to fly to Sweden on the weekend, and I need some warm clothes. I need a coat and maybe a pair of boots. There are a lot of new leather boots out now. I'm going to buy a brown pair. I'm not sure about the coat. Maybe blue or black. I'll see.
Okay, as you can see, after you explain that it's better to give them more time to practice. Okay. As you heard, there's a lot more in the actual listening There's peripheral information that they don't need. So they have to listen for specific information. And not only that, but also note take. So this is quite a lot. This is why I suggested you do it in 3 stages, at least. Yes. Okay. I think we are running out of time.
I'm going to go to the mall. I have a job interview and I need
Okay. The reason I'm suggesting the interactive whiteboard is, as you know, because the audio is there and also it's easier to use on the screen. How long would this lesson take? How long would this take for you, do you think? For your teachers, I mean. This. Mind you, there are quite a few things here, remember, that are not completely new. There's a lot of the vocabulary that is familiar. One period, 45 minutes. Yes, fine, no more than 45 minutes. Could be less actually, but yes, including these. Have you got 45 minutes for this? Or have you got less? You've got a period. You haven't got a period for this? $35. Okay, fine. All right, here it is then. Talking about flipping. If you have presented the grammar, get them to have a look at that and do these activities. Or go to the workbook and check them next time in class. So if you want to save time, what you could do is also include this part which is controlled. And when you come back next time, then you do the pair practice, which is a lot more interesting. Where is he going to go on vacation? He's going to go to Jeddah. What's he going to take? He's going to take light clothes, okay? All right. So there are different ways of combining these. You can actually do it in the time you've got, but it's got to be done in very planned manner, timed, organized, so that there is no that you don't waste time. So it's planning basically that is important. Let me do a last check. Oh, you have to see this before you go. How does this make you feel? Cold, fresh. You see, relaxed. Okay, it's different feelings. All right, for more advanced students, it's fantastic to do things like that for feelings. Okay. All right. This is what I would suggest here for the Iguazu Falls. That's the reading. And you could do a similar thing for the conversation. There are some wonderful pictures, and obviously you can find pictures and videos on the web free of charge. Yeah. Okay, yes, I know that time is up. I know you have to go. Okay, family problems. I was too ambitious. Question answer? Would anyone like to stay on for question answer?
Yes, let's do that. Do we have any questions for Janai? We know time is up. Yes, it's 12. And you're free to leave if you need to, but you have any questions for Janai, we can pick it up now. Thank you, Janai.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish we had more time. I wish I had you in a sort of longer training course over time. That would be wonderful.
Please drop your questions in the Q&A and we can ask this question to Janai if you have any questions. Okay, there's one question. What is the best way to teach writing online?
Same as you teach. You mean writing what, by hand?
Munira, do you mean writing by hand? Writing emails, letters.
If you mean writing a text, what applies to when you do writing normally applies to when you do writing online. Following these stages. If you're using breakout rooms, it would be a good idea to get the students to brainstorm, put some ideas together, and write together so that they can also edit each other's work. Okay? It's better for students to listen once from audio and then listen to their teacher. Yes and no. Okay, it's okay to listen to the teacher, but it's also a good idea to get used to other speakers. You can write by using the whiteboard. Yes, of course you can. I'm not, I can't at the moment use the whiteboard, so this is why I didn't do anything on it. How can the students access the Learning Center? Serish, I don't know what's the link that people have.
It's on the N website, if I'm not wrong.
Okay. What's the best way to teach grammar online? Exactly the same way we did it together. Use interactive whiteboard, put it on your screen and use it.
How do we support students who are poor in reading?
Sorry?
How do we support students who are poor in reading?
Poor in what way? When you say poor in reading, you mean they read and have difficulty understanding? Not getting an answer.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Thank you, Rhoda.
Maliha, you'll have to repeat the question. What do you mean by poor in reading? Also, if you're facing compatibility issues on Mac, please check with the tech support on N portal to help you fix this. You may need a third-party app or a player to make it work on Mac, just because there were a lot of questions about that. So if you're facing any compatibility issues on Mac, please check with the tech support on AIM portal.
About methods related to the book contents, they're not specific methods that are only related to this book. This is why I was talking about teaching approaches, teaching and learning approaches before. All right, I'll see what I can what I can include, maybe for a bit of reading in your handouts next week.
Yep. I guess that
Oh,
sums
they
it up.
don't know the alphabet enough. You mean they have trouble reading? Do they have do they have a reading difficulty? Is it a learning difficulty? Malaya. Have their students listening? Okay, I'll get to that. Maybe decoding. Okay, so they can't decode, maybe. Not the understanding, Malia says. Okay. Yes, they have learning difficulties. We haven't got the time to talk about that, I'm afraid. There was some material that we used last week. I'll see what I can include, Malia. Now, some teachers have their students listen to a reading text. What do you think of that? Well, I'm more interested in getting my students to read silently, to tell you the truth, and understand. This is why I tend to sort of adapt questions quite often and design sort of other tasks if necessary. It's no harm to get them to listen and read maybe at the end after you've dealt with the reading, but as we are dealing with intermediate now, it's not elementary. I think it's a good idea for the students to be able to do some work reading silently for understanding at least. And then if teachers want to do listen to the reading text, fine. Or if you want to begin with listen to a reading text, then let the students listen and follow, but then let them read silently in order to answer the questions. I think your students are exposed to more language through the internet. Through interactive games and all sorts of other things. Hints about tests. No, the book has a syllabus. We're responsible for the syllabus, not the curriculum. The curriculum is put together, is approved by your ministry.
I suppose that sums it up.
Yep. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry we haven't got a lot more time. I wish we did, so we
Yeah.
could do things properly. Thank you.
But thank you so far for being so attentive. Like it's been, you guys were engaging and you had 2 hours for this. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week then.
See you next week, and I'll try and put a little portfolio together for you. Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.